and you will introduce the leads.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
So this is not the ideal audio situation. So tell me what you think right here. Tell me, this is channel 2. Is there, I can possibly tape a, let me see what I can do with a shotgun. Bye. Here's channel 1. Coming up on channel 1. Channel 1's better. Channel 1's better. Channel 1. Channel 1. How's that? That should be channel 1 right there. Okay, that's better. Channel 1, channel 1, channel 1. Channel 1, channel 1. All right, thanks.
Speaker and Senator. So you will each introduce the next person, and then it's going to be given to you to come back and say, so Jake, and you say, we will open it up for questions. Okay?
Good afternoon. We are going to get started here for the sake of everybody who's cramped on the stairs at the moment. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Fenberg, and I have the honor of serving as Colorado's Senate Majority Leader. I've got one fan in the crowd. Thank you for joining us on this historic day for the future of Colorado's transportation system. The bill we are introducing today is the product of hundreds of hours of stakeholding, of months of gathering input from communities across this state, and unfortunately, the result of decades of letting our transportation system fall behind. Today, you'll hear from bipartisan legislators from the House and from the Senate, from Governor Polis, leaders from the business community, and mayors from all over our great state. Together, we've worked hard to craft a package that is collaborative, that is thoughtful, and innovative. And today, we are excited to officially introduce our path forward. As we look to power Colorado's comeback after this pandemic, we find ourselves at, dare I say, a fork in the road. We have a choice of continuing to underfund our transportation system by relying on an outdated and diminishing funding source, or we can do what other states have done and choose to leverage one-time funds with long-term investments to build our future, to modernize how we move people and goods around our state, to support businesses around our state, to improve our state's air quality, and to strengthen communities. For the first time, we are introducing something that isn't just a Band-Aid, but is instead a real framework to future-proof our transportation system. This is a big deal. This means shovels in the ground to make long overdue improvements to our roads and to our highways, including a big focus on rural Colorado. This means we're reducing traffic and congestion through improvements to key corridors around our state. This means we're electrifying our transportation system by making major investments in electric vehicles and charging infrastructure. And this means we're expanding transit options all over the state. It's time for a transportation system that will get us where we need to go, the way we need to get there. This is the year we will make it happen. And this team here today behind me is going to get it done. And a key part of that team comes from the big leadership of our Colorado Speaker of the House, Alec Garnett.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Majority Leader Fenberg, for that nice introduction. This is a very momentous occasion here at the Capitol. Decisions in capitals across the country can make our state better, a better place to live, and often make our state a model for our neighbors and the nation as a whole. On so many issues, Colorado leads the way. We set the standard for the country on innovative policy, on good governance, and responsible stewardship of the public trust on issues big and small. But on transportation funding, we're falling behind and losing our competitive edge with our neighboring states. But the bill we're going to introduce today with the coalition of people behind me is going to change that course. We have a transportation crisis in Colorado. Our highway system is 38th in the nation. We're 47th when it comes to pavement condition of rural interstates. You don't even need a road sign to know when you cross over from Colorado to Nebraska or Colorado to Utah. Coloradans are feeling the impact of our outdated transportation system when we sit in traffic, when our businesses can't get their goods to market, and our cars look twice as old as they really are. This is what it looks like when our infrastructure is falling apart at the seams because our funding system isn't even close to where it needs to be. It doesn't have to be this way, and the group of folks behind me are sick and tired of the status quo and want to see change. We can make that decision to take a different direction, and until now, Coloradans have been stuck in gridlock while states like Utah are driving ahead. Utah is 7th when it comes to the rural interstate pavement quality because they've stopped relying on just kicking the can down the road, and they have stepped up to solve this problem. Historians may spend a lifetime studying the impactful decisions leaders have made, decisions made in crisis or in times of prosperity. When the book is closed on this session, we'll remember this moment when we all came together in a bipartisan way, the Colorado way, to say enough is enough, and we need to fix our transportation funding system here in Colorado. Before COVID-19, Colorado had the #1 economy in the nation. Think about where we can go if we fix this problem. The economic growth we can see, the jobs we can create, the individuals and small businesses that can thrive if we build the transportation system Colorado needs and deserves. Fixing our transportation infrastructure is how we compete with our neighboring states, who are miles ahead because they've already addressed this challenge. Colorado can compete with our neighbors. We will compete with our neighbors. We can make Colorado a better place to live. We can be a model for transportation funding like we are in so many other areas. Colorado can win, but we have to act now. It is my honor and privilege to introduce the governor of the great state of Colorado, who has pushed us to get to this point today, Governor Polis.
Thank you, Speaker Garnett. It is so exciting to see really an unprecedented coalition here in the state capitol in Denver saying it's time to fix our roads. We have the business community, members of the environmental community, labor community, mayors from across our state. It's rare to see people of so many different perspectives come together around something that we need to do. Most importantly, this bill is for you. It's to finally fix our damn roads. It's to finally address the frustration that we all feel when we're stuck in traffic. You know, the average Coloradan loses $600 a year in lost time stuck in traffic. But it goes beyond that dollar value. How do you put a price on missing your kid's soccer game? How do you put a price on not being able to visit your ailing mom after work because the traffic is too much? I experienced this, today. Fortunately, I was able to. Today, I drove into Denver from Boulder. A poetry recital at school. I had to go back to Boulder and come back to Denver. Now, we take this for granted, but how do you put a price tag on being there for your kids when you need them, your parents when they need them, and being able to get where you want to go? So far above and beyond the $600 a year that Coloradans pay in lost productivity, far above and beyond that, we lose some of the very interconnectivity that makes it special to live our lives with our families and our loved ones. This bill also saves people money right away by reducing vehicle registration fees. So as part of the stimulus freeing up more money in people's pockets for the next couple of years, every Coloradan who has registered vehicles will save money with this bill. And of course, what's also important is accountability and transparency. And we're going to make sure that people know how all these dollars are spent. The Colorado Energy Office and Colorado Public Health are going to jointly and annually prepare a report that details the progress that's being made. CDOT and new enterprises will make sure that they have public dashboards so everybody is aware of where every dollar is going. We really want to set a new bar on accountability for public money. And by doing this, we can finally make progress in Colorado towards reducing traffic, fixing our roads, cleaner air, saving people money with electric vehicles and on vehicle registration fees, and on multimodal transit options for more Coloradans. No more U-turns, no more detours. It's time for action to fix our roads and our transportation infrastructure. This plan moves us boldly forward in the right direction. And that's why there's a historic coalition behind it, including folks who use our roads. By clearing congestion, putting more fuel-efficient and electric vehicles on the road, we can add real value to the lives of every Colorado business and every Colorado family. And that's exactly what this bill, which represents years of hard work, does. I want to turn it over to somebody who's helped lead those stakeholder efforts over the last several years, because this is a product that needs a lot of input, a lot of stakeholding, and a lot of that stakeholding was led by Senator Faith Winter, and I'm proud to turn it over to her, one of the chief sponsors of the bill.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for all your work and partnership on this. I am very excited to be here and look towards the future of what transportation is going to look like in Colorado. When we talk about future-proofing, it's both how we fund our roads, but also what we spend our money on. And we know that in Colorado, we have a phenomenal state. And to keep it phenomenal, we have to address our climate goals. And this will help us reach our climate goals through electrification and also by investing in multimodal transportation. Colorado has more rural multimodal transportation than any other state in the country. It's something we should be proud of. Multimodal transportation helps our seniors get to the doctors. We went on a tour of public transit across the state, and we met people in Salida that said, to get to a doctor's office, I have to go uphill over a pass, and there's not enough transportation. So we know that increasing transportation choice is essential. It's how workers go from where they can afford to live to where they work. It's how community college students get to college. And this is an essential piece of the work that we've been doing. In addition, we know that communities of color have been disproportionately impacted by pollution that's caused by transportation. And that's why in this bill, one of the things I'm most excited for is creating a brand new funding source for projects to clear the air in non-attainment air zones. And I look forward to seeing those communities use that money to clear our air and impact climate and bring equity to the transportation system. Now, we have so many people behind me. It was 132 meetings. I think I know every single person's Zoom background that's standing behind me. And that's why we were able to come together, because we listened, and we listened to each other. We talked about our hopes and our dreams and our aspirations. And that's why you have the business community, you have county commissioners, mayors, local governments, the environmental community, truckers, the new technology companies that are being asked to participate in a big way to funding our transportation system together. And I want to thank everyone for, in good faith, coming to the table and sharing your hopes and dreams and aspirations. We wouldn't have gotten there without you. And in all those 132 meetings is my good friend, my co-conspirator, my co-bill drafter, Representative Matt Gray.
Thank you all, and thank you so much for being here. You know, one of our goals in all this is to not just fix this problem for this year or for next year or for the year after that, but to get past the problem we've had for a long time, which is we've had a diminishing revenue source that we haven't been able to replenish. And what that looks like is not preparing for the transportation system of today or the one for next year, but for the entire future. And a huge part of that is investing in electrification. This is my chief of staff here. You know, if you go and talk to the manufacturers of automobiles moving forward, everybody's path moves towards electrification as far as their what they're going to be producing in the future. And we don't want to just succeed, we want to lead in that area. And so we've got a ton of resources that are based on not just we're going to capitalize on the needs we have today. We're going to invest in the things that we've fallen behind on, but we're also going to be done falling behind. We're not going to fall behind anymore. We're going to get out ahead. And what that looks like is electrification across our state and getting the resources in place where we're going to be a leader, again, not just somebody who falls behind the other areas around us. And so I very much look forward to this. It has been a tremendous amount of effort from everybody who's standing behind us right now. I very much look forward to it. I want to introduce somebody who, you know, when Senator Winter mentioned we traveled the state, there were three of us in a van together going back and forth across I-70, dreaming up dreams of what we could do about transportation funding. It's coming up on 2 years ago now. And we talked about this over and over again. It was myself, Senator Winter, and Senator Priola, Senator Kevin Priola from Adams County. And, you know, we didn't talk about it on a party level. We didn't talk about it on a partisan level. We talked about how can we actually deliver for the state of Colorado. It was one of my favorite trips that I've taken. It's my favorite trip I've taken as a representative. But I'm really excited to work together with him. So with that, I will hand it over to Senator Kevin Priola.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. I'm honored to be a part of this process to lead the state forward. It's been many years and many meetings, as many of the other folks involved and the sponsors have mentioned. And, you know, I do hearken back to that trip up to the mountains a few years ago and understanding in more depth just the crucial need and the fact that we can't just continue to, you know, bulldoze mountains and widen lanes. We need to think creatively and outside the box. I also remember, you know, this last March, April, when the coronavirus pandemic first started. I went outside one day to get in my car to run an errand, and I looked west at the mountains. And I had not seen them that crystal clear since I was a young boy in the early 80s growing up in Adams County. So those are the kind of things about this bill that make me very excited. And I'm confident that it will bring jobs to Adams County. It'll bring better roads to Adams County. You know, I-76, I commute every day, and I can remember being a young man on my grandfather's tractor pulling rows in the middle of the day, and it was like one car. And now that highway is bumper to bumper even on the weekends. So it's because of the development in my district, and other parts of the state are the same way. We've had a lot of people around the country and around the world that have realized what a beautiful and great place Colorado is to live. But they've also brought, you know, more traffic, more congestion, and I'm confident this plan will create a sustainable funding source that will not be able to be monkeyed with by future legislatures, and will make up for the fact that, legislatures in the past never indexed the existing funding source, and it eroded the purchasing power in the HUTF. So with that, I would like to hand off to the Mayor of Denver, Michael Hancock, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Senator Priola, and to the governor of this great state, our great governor, and to this great legislature. Thank you for seizing this opportunity to go big. The impact this transportation bill will have is immense. We've been waiting for this for years, and I couldn't be prouder that the fact that it's finally happened to be here today as Denver's voice of support for this bill. In 2017, I announced a multi-billion-dollar commitment from the city of Denver to improve its mobility strategies. It was called our Mobility Action Plan. And I did that with a great deal of enthusiasm, but also with some mixed emotions. And we knew that, one, it should be a regional commitment, because it doesn't make sense for Denver to work to improve its mobility and roads if we're not doing it on a regional level. And two, we lacked the leadership at the state and federal levels to join us in not only a financial commitment, but in a logistical commitment in making it happen. So today, this plan truly is better for Denver, and it's better for all of Colorado, wherever we live, and it begins to pave the way for a transportation system of the 21st century. It helps us to meet the demands of the 21st century. I really enjoyed reading this bill and reading about its commitment around the diversity of type of transportation modes that we will be using over the years, over the decades, over the centuries to come. And this investment in the transportation system of the future, gets at the heart of equity, as Senator Winters pointed out, and addressing the environmental injustices that have occurred as well throughout our state. So here's why this transportation infrastructure investment is especially important right now. These critical investments create jobs. Let's not forget that. It supports communities, and it grows the middle class. This bill would invest in a type of transportation infrastructure that will create those jobs, thousands of jobs, support communities and families so they can recover and come back stronger, and help local businesses not only regain the ground lost during COVID-19, but secure our pathway forward economically. And so, whether you're the President of the United States, and we're excited about the infrastructure bill pending in Congress, or at least in Washington right now, or the governor and the legislature here at the state level, local level mayors, I can tell you, are expecting and hoping that this bill will move swiftly and boldly through our legislature, and we make a bold investment in the state of Colorado and our future. We are ready to stand with the governor and the legislature to make this bill a reality and go about moving Colorado to its rightful place, one of the best in the nation when it comes to infrastructure. With that, I am proud to bring up my friend and one of our great Colorado, Mayor Southers from Colorado Springs.
Thank you, Mayor Hancock, and thank you, Michael, for growing 1871 style facial hair and helping us celebrate the sesquicentennial in Colorado Springs. I know that's what it was. And I've challenged the governor to join me. He's got till July 31st to grow some facial hair. Ladies and gentlemen, needless to say, as a conservative Republican, I'm not here this afternoon because I'm a fan of everything going on at the Colorado legislature these days. Far from it. But I am here to support this transportation package because I believe Colorado must move forward to invest in its transportation infrastructure, and this is the best, most collaborative effort that I've seen to do so. I've personally been a loud critic of the legislature for the past decade in regard to its failure to invest in transportation. And I opposed a previous effort to fund transportation improvements through a state sales tax increase because I thought it worked against local governments who needed sales tax to fix local roads. I said then that I thought the mechanism for increased transportation spending was a combination of a greater allocation of general fund and user fees. It's only right that the users of our highways are the ones that shoulder a substantial share of the costs. And a combination of general fund and user fees is precisely how this bill package is funded. And while I personally would prefer perhaps a greater contribution of general fund or more money into highway construction, less into multimodal, I'm a political realist and I understand political compromise. And I don't see a better package coming from the legislature or the voters anytime soon. And I strongly believe we simply cannot kick this can down the road any longer. Transportation can't be a partisan issue. It's too important to the quality of life of our residents, of our state. When I look at Colorado Springs, we've made a great amount of progress in transportation infrastructure over the last 6 years. Our citizens have invested in local infrastructure, and it's paying great dividends. But when I look into the future, I see expensive projects like Powers Boulevard, which is State Highway 21, expansion of State Highway 94 east of Colorado Springs, and a much-needed expansion of US 24 east and west of Colorado Springs. And these simply cannot be accomplished without a much greater infusion of state and federal dollars. This is the time for Colorado to show it can compete with other western states and significantly invest in transportation infrastructure. This is a good beginning, and I'm glad to support the effort. And now it's my honor to welcome both.
Well, thank you, Mayor Southers, and thank you, Governor Polis and legislators, for inviting me to be here with you all today. It is such an exciting day. Boulder appreciates the leadership shown by the governor and also by the sponsors to introduce. Senator Winter and Representative Gray and state staff have spent many hours getting input from mayors and other stakeholders over the last year to shape this measure, and that hard work is now paying off. This is truly a momentous effort to transform Colorado's transportation system and our economy into one that will serve our state for generations to come. Today's legislation is really about the people of our great state and how we live our lives. We can all think of a moment when we've been stuck in traffic, so close to our destination and yet so far. Or we can remember a day when ozone alerts caused by a thick fog of air pollution have driven aside. Colorado is known for our beautiful outdoor spaces, and a true Colorado transportation system is one that helps us protect the lands and nature that we so cherish. And it is a system that lets us visit those places efficiently and in a variety of ways. As the mayor of Boulder, I can speak for our residents when I say that we want a clear view of our incredible Flatirons every day. This bill will help us keep and protect the air quality that lets us enjoy their beauty. And as been mentioned previously, some parts of this proposal are making critical investments in our infrastructure, such as charging stations, to help Colorado lead the market-driven transportation towards robust electric vehicles. It will invest in clean public transit and front-range passenger rail, which is a very exciting recent development. It will increase mobility options, such as walking and biking, to reduce traffic across our state. And very importantly to me, this bill is very well crafted in that it raises funds from the right sources, those tied to road usage, but also in that it invests those funds where they're most needed. It invests in CDOT's 10-year plan, which has many thoughtfully developed and includes many projects important to Boulder, such as multimodal improvements on State Highway 119 and State Highway 7. And moreover, it dedicates a substantial amount of funding to local governments to use as they see fit, including for both capital and operational needs. This is a first step towards creating a transportation system that is worthy of our state, one that will bolster our economy, support mobility, modernize our transportation system, and improve our air quality. I look forward to supporting this bill to every other city and town leader across the state, and I want to thank the governor and legislators again for their work on this critically important issue. Thank you. Welcome Carl Smith from U.S. Telephonics.
Well, I'm not Carl Smith from U.S. Telephonics, but I am Carl Smith from Smart Transportation Union, and we represent railroad workers. My name's Carl Smith, and I'm with the Smart Union. We represent 100,000 railroad bus transit country. Inviting me here, this is a day for Colorado, and what an opportunity for our state. For too long, we've been talking about how to improve our transportation system without the action to back it up. I believe this proposal that will finally take the necessary steps forward towards the 21st century transportation system in the state of Colorado. I'm proud to join everyone here today as part of a broad coalition of Coloradoans who are standing up to support this comprehensive legislation. This last year has been challenging for so many Coloradoans, including so many Smart Union workers. And we can't talk about getting folks back to work on their feet and creating a top-notch economy in our state without also creating a worthy transportation system. With this proposal, we now have a chance to do the following. We can modernize the transportation system through investment in the front-range passenger rail. We can expand mobility options and the electrification of infrastructure like charging stations. Improve how people and goods are supporting local businesses. And we can make significant investments in shovel-ready projects immediately for working people, creating tens of thousands of jobs throughout the lifetime of this legislation. There are thousands of workers, some who are transitioning careers and who have the training and skills necessary that are ready to roll up their sleeves and to help our state build back stronger from the pandemic. This bill would create 27,000 Colorado jobs while creating a Colorado transportation system that will help improve the economy. A big part of that for rail workers is the just transition. As we look at building a front-range passenger rail system, railroad workers are losing their jobs hauling coal. This is a great opportunity to transition those skills and professionalism from coal to moving passengers with very little challenge. Smart Union workers pride ourselves on being adaptable and able to meet the moment when it arises, and that's exactly what we all must do now. It's time to meet the moments, and I believe this legislation does just that. Thanks again for inviting me here today, and now I'm happy to introduce Commissioner Elise Jones. Thank you.
Elise Jones, I'm the Executive Director of the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, and while SWEEP and other environmental groups continue to fine tune a few remaining, I'm here today to significant our transportation proposal would investment in electrification by any state, anywhere in the country. Replacing gasoline-fueled cars and trucks with ones fueled by clean electricity is absolutely critical to meeting our state's climate targets, along with also significantly reducing vehicle miles traveled through transit and other multimodal investments. Over the next decade, we need to grow from 35,000 EVs in Colorado to 1 million. This bill recognizes the scale of that challenge with funding to accelerate the EV market. To support these new EVs, Colorado will need to get 11 times more charging stations by 2030, and this bill would put a significant down payment on that infrastructure. This bill includes funding for all types of electric mobility, from electric bikes and transit to rideshare vehicles like Uber and Lyft. It includes money to replace the dirtiest vehicles on the road with zero-emission school buses, delivery trucks, and the like. After 2020's record-breaking wildfires and other climate-fueled disasters, we know we can't wait another year to meaningfully address the transportation emissions that are fueling our climate crisis. These actions are also needed to reduce the high ozone levels and other pollution that are fueling unhealthy air in the greater metro area, particularly in neighborhoods that are overburdened with highways and transportation emissions. In transitioning to EVs will also save Coloradans tens of billions of dollars by 2050, tens of billions, through lower vehicle costs, energy bills, and health and environmental impacts. So let me close by thanking our lawmakers, our governor, for leading this important effort and this important conversation. We look forward to working to further improve and accelerate passage of this bill. Thank you. And with that, I would be happy to introduce Mike Kopp from Colorado Concern.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you so much for hanging in there. You know, for the past 15 years, the phrase that has dominated what the transportation discussion at the Capitol and in the state has been like is this: perfection or nothing. And I really would like to extend a personal and corporate, for my organization, word of thanks to the governor, to the mayors, to these legislative leaders for taking this step through that political impasse that we've all seen. And frankly, it has caused in a lot of suffering and lost time and lost wages and lost paychecks that were going to bad road repairs as a result. So I want to turn around and I just want to say thank you to these leaders. Thank you very much. And briefly, as the President and CEO of Colorado Concern, of senior business leaders representing 140 businesses and over 100,000 employees in the state, and the chair of the A Way Forward Coalition, I really would like to say that we are very pleased that the General Assembly and the governor are making every effort to get Coloradans out of traffic and off of bad roads. We look forward to continuing our work with them on this critical bill as it moves forward through the legislative process. We are all aware that the broad strokes, the framework of the bill are in place. And like every bill, there might be areas for improvement. But the sponsors and the legislators who have been working on this bill, not to mention our inimitable Director of Transportation, Shoshana Liu, deserve tremendous credit for working so hard to manage a truly inclusive process. And in the end, the bill takes an enormous step in the right direction when it comes to dealing with the two hidden taxes every Colorado motorist pays: the cost of time to traffic, the cost of car and truck repairs because of our poor number, $6,000 per year to law. I think that was somewhere around $, depending on the higher cost for our motorists by the time you their lost time and the car repair to make. So, whether that's or whatever the number, these are real costs that everyone pays. It creates not just a lifestyle drag, and we surrender our money to a new supply millions over estimates cost when you add that $8 billion as an organization. You can't that we're losing. Costs are being by our business community. Business have more. There's less to provide employees in their paychecks. It shows up, these costs show up in the cost of the goods that the motor carriers call. The Colorado mechanical pipe fit It shows up in the costs that all of our to acknowledge the work, this step, governor and these and our transportation Honolulu have of our behalf. Them. It is my pleasure to introduce my colleague Kelly Bruff, who is the president and CEO of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce.
You're all wondering what possibly could there be left to say. So am I. All right, let me start by saying the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce represents 3,000 employers with 400,000 employees. We've been around for 153 years, and there is one thread that consistently shows up in our history, and that is the importance of investing in transportation and our transportation system. And these last few decades have been no different for our members. We have spent a great deal of time trying to do just that. And I want to recognize employers throughout the state and the incredible leadership that supports those employers who have worked so hard in that same period of time to address funding. What we all know is a strong transportation system is central to a thriving economy and a good quality of life. It's central to helping employers be successful and employees be happy. For years, we've struggled to adequately fund transportation in Colorado, and today is an important moment where we join to support investing in our transportation system. To be very clear, we support not only transportation funding, but we support this bill. This legislation represents compromise, stakeholder input. It includes forward-thinking concepts and studies to ensure that we not only invest today, but we start thinking about investing in our transportation system for our future. The truth is, we all have to put a little more skin in this game if we're going to be able to make this investment in Colorado. We're prepared to put ours in. We know the policy isn't perfect, but it is rooted in the reality of the situation, and it effectively secures more funding we so desperately need in Colorado. We look forward to continuing this work with all of you. I hope you'll join us in supporting and ensuring we advance the economic vitality of our state. And you're going to be thrilled because I'm going to introduce Jake Swanton. Jake is with Lyft, and I think what he's done, he's buying us all drinks.
All right, the end of the lineup. Thanks to Governor Polis, Speaker Garnett, Leader Fenberg, Senator Winter, Representative Gray, leadership, and for having me here today. Your legislation reflects that we are all in this together. Everyone who uses the road has a responsibility to link arms, improving our infrastructure and climate challenges in front of us. And while this legislation adds a fee on ride sharing, we're proud to do our part. Now, embracing a fee isn't something you often hear from companies, but it's because the leaders who crafted this bill worked so hard to ensure that all users on the road are an equitable part of the solution. And while the process was commendable, so is the substance, because the proposal ensures that the revenue it collects goes back into the priorities that we share. For Lyft, this means accelerating the number of high-utilization electric vehicles in Colorado by making them more convenient, affordable, and accessible, while increasing the earning potential for our state's diverse community of rideshare drivers. Moving toward an electric future is a must, and at Lyft, we've committed to going fully electric by 2030. Solutions like this proposal will ensure that EVs are available and more affordable for the thousands of Coloradans who drive on the Lyft platform for years to come. We know that electrifying rideshare fleets is one of the most efficient uses of investment funds, and that's because EVs on a rideshare platform have been proven to help us reach climate goals 4 times faster than the average car on the road. And in fact, the last time Lyft attended a press conference at this spot, we joined Governor Polis and many of the leaders here today to announce our launch of one of the largest private sector EV fleets in U.S. history, right here in Colorado. This legislation will allow us to go further and to go faster. Lyft's love for Colorado and our deep investments here really are a testament to the state's forward-thinking and innovative leadership. Thanks again for bringing me here today. I look forward to continued partnership and seeing this bill signed into law. With that, I will call back up, I believe, Leader Fenberg.
Once again, thank you to everybody for all of your work that has resulted in this package. We're incredibly excited to be introducing it today and can't wait to get it across the finish line. We do have a few minutes for questions, so we'll open it up, and if you have a question for a specific person, please identify that and we'll have them come down. Jesse.
Senator Fiola and Mayor Suthers, I think you're the two only elected Republicans on the stage up there. I'm wondering if you're talking to your fellow Republicans about joining this bill, what chances do you think they have? And then I'm also curious if you have to share the same concerns that some other conservatives have about this not going to the voters and being something that the legislature is doing without the traditional paper approval for a tax.
Yeah, as for myself, I've already had those conversations. I've first of all explained, enterprises are part of Tabor. I voted for Tabor. It was one of my earliest votes as a 18, 19-year-old. And then plus I understand the benefit of EVs. I own 2 of them. My family owns 2 of them. And they are superior to ICE technology, in my opinion. Not only superior in driving and lower maintenance, lower cost of fueling, they'll last longer and they keep the air cleaner. So I'm very excited that that's a component of this legislation. And, I've been a proponent of mass transit. I ride a bike. So it's got a little bit of everything, and it spreads the burden. And I think that's what makes it ultimately fair. It's not a burden solely on, diesel and gasoline drivers, so on and so forth. So it spreads the burden, and it will help all segments of the state, from state highways to local governments to be able to use the money as they see fit.
My background as Attorney General tells me that these are genuine fees related to what the voters get as a result, what the citizens get as a result. I have no concern that these are going to be fees upheld by the Colorado Supreme Court as properly related to what is derived from the fees. I also think the sponsors have done a good job in setting up the enterprises. A ballot issue that was passed last November. So I think they've designed this in a way that will withstand any kind of court scrutiny. Look, I can't speak for other Republicans, and everybody has motivations. A lot of people in this building, their greatest motivation is to become a member of the majority, and I understand and I respect that. As a Republican mayor of Colorado Springs, I've got to be here and do what's best for the citizens of Colorado Springs, and I am absolutely convinced, having watched this, trail of tears for a decade, that this is the in what I community are. I be not to be what's taking place.
What's that?
Yeah, thanks, Ed, for that question. We have this unique moment in time where we are investing more in general fund revenue than I can remember in any other transportation proposal moving forward. This is the most significant investment, and you have to remember it's front-loaded. So we are front-loading that general fund investment to make sure those are guaranteed dollars to go towards shovel-ready projects to help meet the needs across the state. There is language built in to make sure that we review any federal legislation reconciliation package around infrastructure that may move. But I think when you think about this, you have to think about it as a combination of, one of our speakers said, in the past we have tried to fund or retire all of the $9 billion in unfunded projects that the state of Colorado has. What you see here is a aggressively reasonable proposal to put about $5 billion on the table to go towards those projects and future needs. That, in combination with anything the federal government does, gets Colorado to a place where we finally meet that obligation. So I think this is a very balanced approach, and one that, again, invests more in general fund than we've ever seen before, but at the same time is balanced in all aspects.
We know that land use has a big impact on transportation system needs, and there was talk earlier about some language in this bill to address that, incentivizing density over sprawl. That's not in here. Are you worried at all that this is going to make sprawl worse?
No, I'd say that there absolutely are efforts underway in separate areas around funding for affordable housing, aligned with incentives for pedestrian-friendly communities, upzone communities, and that those are generally dealt with on the housing side. I think, certainly speaking for myself, but I think all of us see transit corridors as part of that solution. When you have public transit, whether it's buses or whether it's front range rail, it absolutely makes more communities livable and commutable that might be a little further in miles without the need to get in a vehicle or clog the road. So I think it opens up a number of doors on that front, but I would also look to the body of work that's being done on affordable housing in that area.
All right, I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for being here, and we will look forward to seeing all of you throughout the process.
Snaps.